D-Mace Finnegan and Donick 102.5, The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We hope you had a wonderful weekend and are having a wonderful start to your Monday, a beautiful day in Nashville, Tennessee. Derek is here dressed like he just stepped out of surgery.
Yeah, man. What I have on now is what they call
Scrubs.
Leisure wear, just like athleisure wear. It's comfortable. It doesn't touch my skin when I'm walking. It's like I'm walking on clouds.
But you wear PJs.
I associate that
they
color.
kind of like PJs.
I associate that color with scrubs. You are wearing scrubs.
I don't mind.
Willie,
it looks good on me.
Is that yellow or green?
That would be green.
Definitely green. I got a bone to pick with people that are in line and they get up to the counter and they don't know what they want.
Oh,
and no, I'm not talking about a restaurant. I'm not talking about a restaurant. I'm talking about a gas station. You go up and you've been standing there, and now you're looking at all the pack of cigarettes or whatever they were cigarettes.
Okay.
And you stared at them for about a minute. I'm like, you don't know what kind you smoke? Just ask the guy, hey, do you have such and such? The guy's going to say either, yes, we do, or no, we don't.
Or they wait and they like look at every scratcher. It's the worst.
It's just like, man, know what you want, get it, and leave. Everybody else behind you. I just had my candy bar. Maybe I need it anyway. I had my candy bar and I just put it in a basket and walked out. Did I show enough patience?
No.
We could all show more patience at times, right?
Yeah. I guess that time I didn't. I just threw that candy bar in the basket. I'm like, I don't want it. Maybe I need it anyway. There we go. That's my grievance.
Thank you. Before we talk about sports, which we have plenty of sports to discuss over the next 3 hours, Teron Davenport will join us at 4 o'clock. We start our weekly interview with Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee at roughly 4:25, 4:30-ish, in that range. So looking forward to having Clark Lee on the program every week as Vanderbilt opens its season on Saturday. Before we get to all of that, I do want to take a few moments to discuss a wonderful event that took place Saturday. That afternoon, Willie and his children, Evie and Mahoney, did an incredible job honoring the life of Aaron Donick. It was a beautiful ceremony. SRO, standing room only. Not a dry eye in the house. To my left sat Derek Mason, who was blubbering like a baby. To my right, my wife Bridget, who never had the privilege of meeting Aaron. And she was crying as well. Everybody who spoke, Willie, of course, his children, a couple of other friends and family, they did a wonderful job. And as I was leaving the event with my wife, I said to her, we should all strive to live life the way that Aaron did, because we would all be so lucky to have, again, a standing room only crowd of people who wanted to come to celebrate our lives. So I just want to say, Willie, because I didn't have a chance to see you on Saturday. I mean, I saw you. I saw you, but I didn't see you. I didn't have a chance to greet you because you were just being mobbed by everybody. But I just want you to know how heartwarming, touching that ceremony was. You did a fantastic job. Your children did a fantastic job. And I'm glad that we could all be there to celebrate Aaron. And I did not cry. I held it together because Derek sure as hell wasn't, and neither was my wife. So I had to be the steely
rock
one.
of stability.
Right. I had to be the steely one in between the two.
Did you lean on him, D-Mace?
We had to pass the tissue
had
box
to pass tissues
back and forth between Derek and Bridget. So I had to be the rock, but it was incredible. So I just wanted to tell you that.
Well, I thank you. I was I knew we would have a big gathering. We had to plan, but we had 557 people officially. I think that's the official attendance count, like at the ballpark, tonight's official attendance. But we were so honored that so many people made it. And I can't thank all of you enough for coming. And I'm just glad I didn't make eye contact with any of you individually when I was up there, because I would have lost it. It was, and our kids, Evie and Mahoney, were just spectacular up at the podium. And Aaron's boss, I want to thank him, Roger Dinwiddie over at Stars Nashville, who, you know, Derek, you've known him for a long time. He was such a pro right at the start, kind of getting us started. Her good friend Heather Morrison from childhood who spoke. And then how could we not thank the man, Vince Gill,
of course,
who is there are some great ambassadors of Nashville, but if I'm starting to list the best ambassadors of Nashville, I would always put Vince Gill at number one. Just so much of a connector of so many people, and we were honored that he sang a couple of songs in Aaron's name. So just fantastic. And the folks at Oz Arts Nashville, the Osgener family, Arnita and Tim, who we've known for a long time. Our boys have gone to school together since they were in the first grade. But like Arnita is such a great stickler for detail, down to having the tissue to pass to everybody. That came in very handy for me as well. And Big Al for the catering. What a fantastic job by everybody. So it could not have gone better from our end, what we hoped we could do for Aaron. And thanks again. I can't think. It'll take me a long time to get to everybody individually, but think about who was there. D. Mason, Barry Trotz was there. We had,
David Poyle.
David Poyle, Jeff Fisher, Coach Fisher came. C. Mace, how all my guys from and girls from the Preds broadcasting group. My college basketball coach Eddie Fogler came in for it. Roman Yossi was there for the captain of the Preds. It was so great to see Yos, and I mean, it really was a who's who. But it wasn't about that. It was just the sheer numbers and waves of people. I just kept told my 11-year-old nephew Eve Donick, he was like, Nashville will never be the same. Of course, I was, that just shattered me right there. But I just said it's just nice to have a lot of friends like that, isn't it? I mean, it's just nice to have so many friends. That's what stuck with me.
Okay. David Janes has just informed me of some breaking NFL news.
Oh, boy. Here we go. It's on now.
I cannot wait to hear the reaction on our text line because I know it's about to come. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. From Mike Garofolo. The Lions are releasing Hendon Hooker.
Ooh.
Sources say Dan Campbell suggested the other day the 2023 third-round pick could use a change of scenery, and he'll have the chance to do so now. So cue all of the text. Should the Titans bring in Hendon Hooker?
Listen, if he couldn't figure it out in Detroit's offense, how is he then going to figure it out here? There's a reason. There's other quotes under there as well.
We'll worry about that later. We'll worry about the fit later. Just bring Hendon Hooker in. We'll worry about the rest later.
This is what I've said.
For life.
This is what I said.
BFL, baby.
About ball quarterbacks under that system. It's a hell of a system in college. It's going to score you a bunch of points, but it doesn't prepare you for life in the NFL, if indeed that's where you want to go and that's where you strive to be. And it's manifesting itself. Hendon Hooker, it could have been an injury that sort of, that sidelined him. That could have pushed him back some. But I just think, overall, he didn't get enough development at the college level on how to run an offense. He was basically, when they lined up, they knew exactly where they were going to throw the ball. There was it was because they spread out so wide, you got to declare yourself. So it was much easier for him to be efficient in an offense like that. Hell, Joe Milton was good in the offense. Nico was good in the offense, sort of, kind of. But that offense just doesn't lend itself to developing quarterbacks for the next level. At least that's my opinion.
He turns 28.
Jeez.
In January.
Yes, that too.
I did not know he was that old.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys who was fortunate or unfortunate. It's interesting looking back, right? It's a double edge. There was a huge benefit and maybe also a downside to being able to play that much college football or be around in college. He played a lot, but he also was not the starter for a long time until he really got it together for those 2 seasons at Tennessee. But he came into the year. When you come into the league that late, like I think Cam Ward is at a good age to come in. He's had a ton of experience in college, but he's not 25.
No.
Right? He's 23. Hendon Hooker came in and he was closer to 25, I think, right? This is coming in his 3rd season.
Second or third, yeah.
This is his 3rd year, I think.
Yeah, this should be his third year.
This would be his 3rd year.
Yeah.
If he's got to find a team to have a 3rd year. I think somebody will.
I'm sure
shot,
somebody,
right?
somebody will pick him up.
But you got to make it happen quicker the older you are when you come into the league. So I think that is something to think about. Now, I am really curious for the reaction in our listening area for this as to how much they beat the drum. But you've been saying it, D-Mace. This is the test. A test of what you've talked about a lot. That offense that Josh Heupel runs is a prolific college offense.
Yeah.
And that's his job, to have prolific offenses in college. But it does not set you up for an easy transition.
Yeah.
And when you come in at 25 and you've got a lot of learning curve and it takes you longer, now he's sitting there going to turn 28 in January and still trying to figure out where he fits. Time's running out.
One texter says, bring the Jesus of quarterbacks back to Tennessee and let's go get this Super Bowl, LOL.
So it took 2 minutes to get the text you were looking for.
Yes. Let's go to James in Ashland City on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com. James, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm just going to say this before I even talk. I don't listen. I don't watch Detroit football. I don't know how things went up there, but I know I've been watching football since I was 5 years old, and I'm in my 50s, especially Tennessee volunteer football. Hendon Hooker at Tennessee was the best quarterback since Peyton Manning. And I will say this, I think his calmness and his footwork in the pocket was better than Peyton Manning's myself. Now, does that translate into the NFL? I don't know that the poor guy got a chance of the proper opportunity to develop. How often did you ever see him on the field? Because I don't watch. Now, D-Mace, I know you're from that area. I don't know if you followed the lines as a kid. Did you ever watch much of the Lions the last couple of seasons he's been there?
Outside of seeing them in games.
Thanks for the call, James.
Thank you. I haven't kept up with their, day-to-day practices. But if you listen to Dan Campbell, he said, one, it's almost as if Dan Campbell was saying he is who he is. He's 27, like Willie said, going on 28. At this time, when you draft a quarterback at 23, 22, you want him to be, who he is at 27 in the NFL. There's no more. You may get a little bit better, but who you are as a quarterback, that's who you are at 27, 28. In their mind, in the NFL GM's mind, Hendon Hooker has reached that point, and he's only been in the NFL going on 3 years. And he hasn't even cracked being a backup quarterback yet. So that's telling me he came in on a bad note, 1, because of the injury, 2, because he was an older quarterback, and then 3, he is who he is, and the Lions knew that whoever that quarterback needed another chance with another team because he wasn't going to be good enough to be one of the top 3 quarterbacks.
Matthew in Nashville says, just turned on your show. Let me guess. You've already had a bunch of Titans fans wanting Hendon Hooker to come to the Titans. Well, to be fair, I'm sort of stoking that fire, but those texts will come. There was another piece of breaking NFL news that is Titans adjacent. According to Adam Schefter, the Texans are not activating running back Joe Mixon by Tuesday's 4 p.m. Eastern deadline, making him ineligible to play at least the first 4 games this season. Due to an ankle injury, Mixon will be moved to reserve/non-football injury, which automatically rules him out for at least 4 games. The Tennessee Titans play the Houston Texans for the first time in Week 4. So Joe Mixon will be unavailable for the Titans-Texans game in Houston in Week 4.
So who does that leave as their running back combos? Because Joe Mixon has done some nice things for them.
They have Nick Chubb. They have Nick Chubb and Dameon Pierce, I believe.
Okay. So Nick Chubb is also a guy that's a little bit of a wild card. What version of Nick Chubb are you getting? We know Nick Chubb was once a fantastic player, but he's had
injuries after
incredible
injuries.
Yeah. And Joe Mixon's at an age now where it's harder and harder to keep doing what you've been doing in the league. But they got some
But
pretty good
he's
value
produced
for him
for 'em,
last
yeah.
year. Yeah.
He's produced for the Houston Texans. I think he's given them that element of being a power back, but also can get out the backfield and catch passes and be a focal point in the passing game. I don't know how much, I don't know how much of a, big deal it's going to be, when the Titans play Houston if he doesn't play. Because I'm sure by then they would have their offense already set and going, and that running back position, I'm sure they're hoping they can get something out of those, something out of those two guys. So I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's more of a big deal at like the first two games, or if he can't come back toward the end of the season, because they're going to need that bruising back like he is.
Mixon had in 14 games, he had 1,016 rushing yards, 11 rushing touchdowns, along with 36 catches for 309 yards in the touchdown.
Solid. 14 games.
Yes.
But he did have some injuries
Yeah.
last year to miss 3 entirely. And there's probably a handful of other games he might have played through something. That's just, I'm not remembering all of this, but it's a good year for his age. And he is now what, 29?
1 second, please. Joe Mixon is 29.
Yeah. It just around 28 is where you get that crossroads with your team. We remember a couple years ago, it came to a head. All that, the running back summit, they all came together like, hey, man, we get nothing, man. We gotta do something.
It worked.
We're not paying people. Derrick Henry's had some monster years since then. Mixon did well. There was some other guys in that mix, but there was kind of that thing around the league. We don't pay running backs.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Some Titans/Tennessee related news to start the show. The Detroit Lions are releasing Hendon Hooker, and Joe Mixon will be out for at least the first 4 games, meaning he will miss the first matchup between the Titans and Texans in Week 4 in Houston. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, it's time for the easiest part of any coach's job, the cuts. Now, while Brian Callahan wasn't able to cut everyone he wanted to, he did cut a lot of players, and we will discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Let me tell all of you out there that this isn't just a concert, it's a cause. Trinetics' Rock the Cradle helps give fragile newborns a stronger start and keeps moms close when it matters most. With Tim McGraw live on stage and your support behind every beat, Ascension St. Thomas is turning music into healing. Tickets are on sale now at rockthecradlenashville.org.
Hey, Derek Mason here, and I want to tell you about a local company I really trust, All Four Season Garage Doors, owned by Dan Watkins. This is a locally run, family-owned business that has been serving Middle Tennessee for years. They've got a huge selection of garage doors. If you're ready for an upgrade, and their installation is top-notch, big enough to serve, small enough to care. And if all you need is a repair, whether it's a section replacement, spring, or your garage door opener, they got you covered. They can even quiet down that noisy garage door or opener. But there's something a lot of people don't think about. It's the carport conversions. Turning your carport into a full garage is one of the best ways to add value to your home. Since the structure is already there, you're really just paying for the frame, the door, and the opener. And the return on investment can be up to 5 times what you spend. So check them out at all4seasonsgarages.com. That's all4seasonsgarages.com. When trust matters, call All Four Season Garage Doors.
Tune in for the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix race on 102.5 The Game this Sunday. Coverage begins at 1 p.m. and is brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. And FYI, at one point during the show today, you can win a pair of tickets to the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix. So be listening for the cue to call during the show. Andrew on our text line, talking about the news that the Lions are releasing Hendon Hooker, said, these next few calls are going to be insufferable. Going to go ahead and imagine the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme playing in the background as these callers drool over Hooker.
Are they going to, though? Like, really? Do you really want the Titans to do this? Now,
it's
think
sort
about
of a
this.
Pavlovian response.
So
right? You hear Hendon Hooker,
right.
Ball for life. Oh, yeah.
There have been people that have sung his praises for a long time and just said, hey, look, just give the guy a shot. He needs a shot. But remember, I was just reminded of this during the break by a friend of mine. It's a good point. Who was the backup for the Lions last year in the playoffs? Was it Hendon Hooker?
A coach from Miami, what was it, high school?
Yes,
Teddy Bridgewater.
Yes. What does it say? That the Lions, when it was time to go and try to win a Super Bowl, who did they dress as the backup? Not Hendon Hooker. So if you're thinking, yeah, Titans, bring in Hendon Hooker. On one hand, I see it because you got nothing to lose. You might be looking for diamond in the rough, whatever. You're looking for a backup. You're saying he's better than Brandon Allen and better than Trevor Siemian. Okay. But remember that he was not good enough to be better than Teddy Bridgewater for the playoff run last year for the Lions.
He is who he is as a quarterback, I believe, right now. And like I said, Dan Campbell said as much. And maybe he just needs a fresh start somewhere else. Again, that's great, but I'm sure their evaluation of him is probably not off from on how other teams have evaluated Hendon Hooker, even coming out. So will he get another job? I'm sure he will. But being a backup or starting, pushing for a starting spot, I can't see it. I just can't.
The Tennessee Titans announced today that they have parted ways with 16 players. Remember, rosters are due tomorrow afternoon. I believe the deadline is 3:00. And hey, that's when we come on. So we will be able to react immediately to the Titans' final roster. But the Titans have parted ways with 16 players, headlined, I would say, by Jaquan Jackson. So Jaquan Jackson, TJ Sheffield, also a wide receiver. Defensive tackle, Josiah Bronson. Defensive tackle, TJ Smith. Outside linebacker, Desmond Evans. Inside linebacker, Amari Burney. Cornerbacks, Jalen Kimber, Clarence Lewis, Jermari Harris, and Davian Ross. Safeties, Julius Wood and Joshua Bledsoe. Released, defensive end, Joe Gaziano. Guard, Arlington Hambright, who sounds like the preppy villain in the 1980s movie. Arlington Hambright. And center, Sam Mustipher. Waived/injured, wide receiver, Matt Landers. All teams must be down to 53 players by 3 p.m. tomorrow. So the headliner, again, at least to me, Jaquan Jackson, who, remember at the beginning of training camp, we talked about our favorite preseason, quote unquote, all-stars, the players who come in, make a huge impact in the preseason or in training camp, and then we never hear from them again. I think we can add Jaquan Jackson to that list.
Yeah. First, I want to say this because I know we kind of go through those names very quickly, and some of the guys we end up talking about, like Jackson, but the other guys that are that also got cut today and will be cut. You don't talk about those guys, and that's the toughest part when you get to know guys through camp, because it's not just two-a-days, because a lot of these guys are brought in before that, especially like free agents or guys that may have spent a year with the team and then came here and they're on their second year, and then the rookies they bring in. So you get to know all of these guys starting the first day they step on to, I call it campus, but step into the building. And they put a lot of work in, man. And that day for some of them, it's everything. And, it's at times it could be, I've seen guys, I've gotten cut on those days. It's just hard walking into the coach's office knowing that, you worked your tail off, but it just wasn't good enough to make the team. And then you got to hear this, because you probably, more than likely, and none of these guys have ever faced rejection, like a coach saying, no, I don't want you on my team, or no, you're not good enough. None of these guys have faced it. And then they face it in a situation where it's like, man, you work, excuse me, you work so hard knowing that, just trying to put yourself in a position where you're going to make a team, and then ultimately at the end you get cut. That's the tough part, because I've been there, as a veteran guy. So I know how it feels for a lot of these rookies that have to go through that put a lot of blood and sweat, into what they're doing. But the good part about it is the practice squad is a lot bigger now. So some of these guys, whereas when I was playing, I think it was about 5 people, Willie, maybe 6, where the rosters were not as big. So you couldn't bring back as many people on the practice squad, but now they can. So that's a good thing. And then veteran guys can be on practice squad as well. So I just wanted to say that, because a lot of these guys' dreams are coming to a streaking halt between today and tomorrow. And, I've seen guys cry, coming back into the locker room. So it's hard. It's hard. But getting to Jaquan Jackson, I thought last year they were high on him heading into camp. And even in camp, they were talking about how he was picking up the offense and he seemed more veteran-like and poised. And it seemed like everything was going well. And then he drops, 2 punts in a game, or is a punt in a game, fumbles away a punt. Since that point, I don't think he's ever gotten back on the right side of the coaches for whatever reason. Maybe that was something that he was dealing with, and he let bleed into his everyday activities on the field, because I've seen guys do that too, where, they get benched and then all of a sudden they just don't care anymore. And not knowing that, coach want to see if you can fight it through. And maybe he wasn't fighting through the way they expected him to. He didn't get much time in preseason. He caught a few punts, but I don't think he ever got back on the right side of the coaches. And he just kept falling further and further down the depth chart. When they draft 2 receivers in one draft in the 4th and 5th round, that's telling you something. That's telling you either you're going to show up big or we're going to cut you.
Jaquan Jackson was a 6th round pick in the 2024 draft. The Titans hope that the top 4 picks in that draft, for them specifically, J.C. Latham, Tavondre Sweat, Cedric Gray, and Jarvis Brownlee, become key members of this team. But one of their draft mates is no longer with us, at least here in Tennessee.
It's still got a chance to be a productive draft.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And I know Jaquan Jackson, he flashed early. Like, yes. I really thought last training camp was like, they may have something here. And he did win the job, but he never, and I think Kyle Phillips would fall in this category.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's shell shock, but the trauma of the turnovers and the not able to hold the returner job. And it wasn't just, he wasn't good at it necessarily, but he had some big mistakes, right? That cost them, and that hurt your confidence, and it can be tough to overcome. And he wasn't good enough as a wide receiver to find a job that way. He was replaceable there and didn't make a jump from year 1 to year 2. But on the positive note, right, we're talking about Jackson because he got cut. You mentioned Cedric Gray. I'm very intrigued. He's become one of the more intriguing guys in this preseason, because you're like, is this a guy that did make a jump from last year to this year? Because he's flashed in these games.
Yeah, he has. He looks a lot more instinctive. He sees things. He's fast. The only problem is he's not big, and he does get pushed around. He has to make up for it with his quickness and speed to get around blockers. But he's shown up in every preseason game that they played and in practice as well. So he could be pushing for a starting spot. opposite Cody Barton. So you're right, Willie. He's one of those guys that did show up, and he needed to show up. He really did, because they were high on him when he first got here. Then did he get injured during the season or early on and never could really come back? I think he played the last couple of games, but he needed a big camp, and he's had one.
By the way, pour one out for the 2023 Titans draft class. Will Levis, we know he's out. Tajay Spears is injured. I'm expecting Josh Wiley to be cut tomorrow. Then there's Jalen Duncan and Colton Dowell, who's also no longer a member of the team. So outside of Peter Skoronski, not looking so good for the 2023 class.
So Skoronski is he's the only guy?
Assuming Wiley gets cut, which I think he will be.
Yeah. And
Levitt,
Duncan is still a project who was thrown to the wolves. He came into the league at a very young age. I still would say there could be a chance for him to be a Dylan Radins kind of reclamation, late bloomer. He's got the body, right? You always look at Jalen Duncan, you're like, man, this guy should be good. And when he's been out there, he has been anything but good.
No,
anything but good. But I'm not saying he's going to be a starter in the league, but he'd be a useful reserve that stays in the league for a while. He's got the body to do it. But you're right. We're dangerously close to getting to a 2023 draft that then would put you with 4 successive drafts that would include, this is what you have to show for it: Roger McCreary and Peter Skoronski. And that's 4 drafts. 4! Those are your best 2 players.
Robert on our text line says, so you're telling me there's a chance.
But don't tell me that. So I want to read you that list. And the next person that calls, say, Brian Callahan's got to show me to get it. You show me a coach that has 4 drafts from 2020 to 2024 with your best players being Peter Skoronski and Roger McCreary,
who's not a starter.
Yeah, he's a nickelback.
Yeah, with
short arms. So he's okay. He's a good player. He's an okay player. He's okay. But those are your 2 best players from 4 drafs. Willie, hey, give me a coach that can make it work with those guys.
Willie, why you take a dig? Why you take a dig at his short arms, man?
Both of them have short arms.
He can't help it. He can't help it. He was born that way.
I know.
Exactly.
Robert on the text line says, so you're telling me there's a chance for Xavier Restrepo. Well, he wasn't cut. He wasn't cut today. So what are we calling the Xavier Restrepo fan club? The X-Men?
Nah, there's already a bunch of X-Men.
Wolverine.
Yeah.
Cyclops.
Yeah. Could he be a part of the X-Men? Restrepo. Does that sound like a X-Man name? Restrepo.
It does.
It does.
A mutant.
Exactly.
He has a skill. Restrepo.
Yes.
What would be the mutant skill?
Robert, yes, there is still a chance.
There is still a chance.
There is still a chance for Xavier Restrepo. Michael and Madison on Hendon Hooker. I hope all of the Vols fans that were talking crazy about the Titans proverbially slapping them in the face for drafting Will Levis over Hendon Hooker keep that same energy when realizing what Hooker's career has turned into. Not a Hooker hater, just a realist.
I mean, you can't say Will Levis's career has been better than Hendon Hooker, but Hendon Hooker hasn't gotten on the field, so that's not fair to him. But again, he came in behind the 8 ball. You're older quarterback, you're injured, and you played in a system that nobody runs in the NFL. They don't even try to duplicate it in the play here or there. Nobody runs it. And now you're expected to run a NFL type offense, man. I feel for you. You were in the French class thinking it was Russian or something. You didn't know what was going on.
Sam says the fan club for Xavier Restrepo is the Strep Brothers. That's good. That's good, Sam.
Not bad.
Not bad.
I like it.
615.
Would that work into the Gonzi scheme?
The Strep Brothers.
You know I'm a fan of the Gonzi scheme.
Featuring the Gonzi scheme.
I think that can play. I will keep that. I'll keep the winds blowing on that one. I'm hoping that catches.
Okay. Good to know.
The Gonzi scheme. I've come around on that one.
Okay, good. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Your thoughts on the Titans cuts today. 16 players released, headlined by Jaquan Jackson. The Titans have to get their roster down to 53 players by 3 p.m. tomorrow. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, Of course, the preseason, thankfully, is now over. So let's review Cam Ward's overall preseason performance. We'll do that next. 615-737-1025. This week's Nashville's Best Deal is for Homegrown Taproom and Kitchen in Donaldson. Homegrown Taproom and Kitchen, a beloved neighborhood hub featured on diners, drive-ins, and dives, offers a gourmet twist on comfort food, and you can enjoy one of their 24 taps of craft beer selections, wine, and unique canned cocktails. Get half off a $100 gift card now at thegamenashville.com while supplies last.
Regarding Cam, you talked last night about relatively vanilla, B, the governor that you had on him to do no harm.
Correct.
With a dramatic change coming from that, Vance Joseph not caring about his safety and the schemes you're going to see, how much, to what degree is his world about to change? And what's the degree of the test that he's now going to see?
First and foremost, very, very, very stiff test right out the gate with the defense in Denver. Very talented, very well coached. It's a good football team. It's a good test for our team in general. So yeah, it's going to be a lot different than a preseason game, certainly. That's part of what practice is for, is to try to get as close to that preparation as possible. But yeah, it's going to be the first time against a really good football team that he's going to play the entirety of the game. And there's going to be learning moments through the course of the whole process, but I think he's up to the task. We're ready for that challenge, and looking forward to it. But yeah, it's definitely, there is no correlation, I don't think, in my mind, from preseason play to your regular season. There's no ability to make any prediction of what that's going to look like. Very pleased with where we're at and what we've done, but certainly the Denver Broncos present an entirely different challenge in week one.
That was Brian Callahan discussing Cam Ward as Cam Ward now transitions into regular season mode. Titans at Broncos, week 1, 2 weeks from yesterday. Broncos favored -8. We'll see if that line moves at all between now and next Sunday. But at the moment, Broncos favored by 8 at home against the Titans in week 1. So now we've come to the end of Cam Ward's first preseason in the NFL. I know stats aren't everything, but I will read you his stat line from his 3 preseason games. 10 of 19 passing, 52.6% completion, 145 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a rating of 77.7. PFF adds he had 1 big-time throw, 1 turnover-worthy play, and an average depth of target of 10.3 yards. So here's my question for all of you at 615-737-1025. How would you review Cam Ward's first preseason in the NFL? And the question that I will ask Willie and Derek, Willie first, is now that you've watched Cam Ward in the preseason, what most encourages you from what you've seen out of Cam Ward? And conversely, what, if anything, concerns you? Jury is still out, however you want to describe it. So a little on the positive side, a little bit maybe on the negative side. So as you review Cam Ward's preseason, what stands out to you?
The standout part to me is, and I'm going to go beyond the results of the 3 games. That to me is way down on the list of the whole thing. I think it's much more of a full impression that just give me the what do you play? 6 series, 7 series, 7 I think. He looks driven, and he doesn't look like the moment's too big for him. He's been through the fire of the practices. He's going to put in the work. If he doesn't do well, it will not be because he hasn't put in the work. And I think I said this same thing about Levis, because I do think Levis put in the work. But I think what I see with Ward is an advanced ability on the way in I think he knows more coming in. He processes more. I think he works even harder, but I also think he does look to me like he's got the right makeup to do the job. So that's what I'm most encouraged about.
Derek, same question.
Watching him, I think the thing that I'm encouraged with, I know, is his development. If you watch from the first game to the second game to the last game he played, the stats doesn't tell the story. But if you go back, and it's hard to do, while the game is going on, to watch it, because you can't see anything. And the only thing they're showing is, completion, incompletion, and they may talk about a play or a drop here and there, but you don't know if he's making a right read. You don't know if he's going through his progressions, and sometimes it looks like he's not. But then I would ask each one, or task each listener, if they have an opportunity, just go to the All 22 and watch every preseason game he's played. He hadn't played many series, so it's not like you're going to be watching, 2-3 hours of tape. You may be watching all together, 15 minutes of tape. But go and watch it, and watch how he processed from game 1 to game 3. He's getting it. He's seeing it. There was a couple of times where if he had in the last game, it was a 3rd down. Moore gets beat in the inside very quickly, and he has to flush out of pocket. If he's able to stay in the pocket, Io Manor is coming wide open across the field. Is that Io Manor, number 5? Is that DK?
Yes. Oh, Io Manor.
Io Manor was coming wide open across the field. He was coming. It would have been a huge completion, but he got flushed out of the pocket right away. You're just looking at that as, oh, he's getting flushed. Oh, he doesn't see no, he didn't even have time to see the receivers. That's what I'm looking at. And that's why I'm encouraged by this young man. Like Willie said, this kid has poise. He's in the pocket as if he's in bed. No, seriously. And it's not a bad thing, because it's not like he's taking sacks or anything like that. The offensive line, they did sack him this past game, but the offensive line has been pretty good, to say the least. But he's processing it well. He's calm in the pocket, and he's developing that leadership. Once he gets his receivers, once they start game planning for actual games, I think all of those things that I've been seeing on tape, they will start to be magnified. Now, he's going to be a rookie. There are going to be rookie mistakes, and he might have a few in his first game. But I think once he gets it, once he feels it, he's going to be all right. And he's going to feel it against Denver.
Yes.
But I think he's going to be, because of that, he may be all right in the second half once they come out and regroup. Or he may be all right after the first series. Who knows? It may not be to the second game. But that's going to get him set up to have I think, a good season. Now, good season may not mean the Titans have a winning record, but I think he's going to be a positive for the Tennessee Titans.
Let's get to some of your reaction on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dustin in Hopkinsville says, I was totally out. Hard critic. My eye test, not the stats. He's not overwhelmed. Getting rid of the ball. He's got good help from the line, but when it's blown up, he's handled it well. Too bad Levis didn't have this line. He's even-keeled, nice arm, has good arm talent. I'm optimistic now. He progressed as he should have to me. Maybe a little more than I feel he should have. I'm in. So Dustin from Hopkinsville, who was out on Cam Ward before the preseason, he's in. Josh, Ward has been promising. I like how he isn't scared or pressing in the pocket. I'm confident in him, not so much in what's around him besides Calvin Ridley. Another texter says, I would say pedestrian. The good takeaway is that I didn't see any of the meathead, bonehead plays that had everybody up in arms screaming, what were you thinking? But overall, not overly impressed from somebody that was a first overall pick. So here's the other question.
I think that is a fair thing.
Yeah.
Does he jump off the page at you as like, that was the number one guy in the draft last year? I don't think I see that.
Well, let me ask you this question along those lines. So you told me what encouraged you about Cam Ward in the preseason. What, if anything, about Ward's performance concerns you, or at least remains a big question to you?
D-May said this, and I think we have to prepare ourselves. I think there will be some ugly plays. He's gonna have some throws. You're like, whoa, but that stands to reason. I'm willing to live with a lot of that. What I think he's got to figure out, this is my concern that I hear as it's not just me. It's what I'm also reading. I'm looking and absorbing what a lot of the evaluators are saying. His footwork / variety of arm angles is, I think, a concern. Besides the regular stuff that when you haven't played in the league, you're gonna have some moments like, whoops, got to learn from that one. Like there's gonna be some. That's every rookie quarterback. But beyond that, the mechanics of his throwing style, he can throw off his back foot. He can throw from different sidearms and different 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 12 o'clock. He'll do it all. That can be a strength eventually, but he's got to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and he's got to do it fairly quick, and he's going to be under duress doing that. So I'm concerned about mechanics, back foot, balancing your upper body, lower body, arm slot, kind of like a pitcher.
I think he's going to be working on that for a bit because these are habits. These are things that he's been doing for 4, 5, 6 years. And it's going to take him a minute. I think he even said that he's going to continue to work on his footwork and making sure he has a good base. He reminds me a little bit of Baker Mayfield from that standpoint. And Baker has gotten better, a lot better. But throwing off platform and your feet not quite set and sidearm, all this other stuff. This is one of the reasons why they draft him, because no longer can you just sit back there as a quarterback and throw at 12 o'clock. That ain't working anymore. You ain't just raising up like Dan Marino and throwing it 12 o'clock. Boom, boom. 12 or 1. That's all you're doing. 12 or 1. No, you got to be, like Willie said, you got to be able to throw that thing at 3, maybe even 4. And Cam can do that. That's what they like about it. Now, here's what I'm concerned about. And it's not so much him. I think it's the coaching staff. Are they going to be patient with him? That's what, because if this thing, and this is management too, because the patience come with Callahan as well. Can Callahan be patient? And the only way Callahan can be patient is if the people above him are patient. If they're not patient with him, he's going to press the quarterback. And that's not good for any young quarterback. But that's the fear, that if they don't start off, say in the first 5 games, if they only win at least two of those games, then I think the pressure is going to be on. And they're going to try to push this kid a little bit further and faster than what they need to. That's the only thing that I'm worried about. And then injury, yeah. But outside of that, no, I'm not saying he's going to be great, but I think he has the makeup, the tools, what I've seen. I think I believe this will work for the Titans.
615-737-1025. How would you review Cam Ward's overall preseason performance? Again, here's the stats for context. 10 of 19 passing, which is a completion percentage of 52.6, 145 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a rating of 77.7, 1 big time throw, according to PFF, 1 turnover worthy play, and an average depth of target of 10.3. 615-737-1025. We will continue to take your reaction on that. We will bring in Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter. We will ask him that same question and more. 615-737-1025. Willie Darnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. Steve Ace, Finnegan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We are efforting Teron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation Titans reporter. Once we get a hold of Teron, we will bring him on, and Teron Davenport is presented by Bart Durham Injury Law. So as we wait for Teron, let's go back to your reaction on your reviews of Cam Ward's overall preseason performance. 615-737-1025. Sean says, I think Cam shows the mental toughness you need to be a successful quarterback. Dustin in Hopkinsville said there were many dropped balls in preseason. I think he's right there at 62% completion if receivers did what they are supposed to do and catch the ball. Well, guess what, Dustin? There is a stat for that. According to Pro Football Focus, adjusted completion percentage, the percentage of aimed passes thrown on target, completions plus drops divided by aimed. That's an interesting math problem.
Divided by aim.
So his, let's see here. I just had it.
I didn't have an aim in the math class.
Yes.
What's the symbol for aim?
No.
So Cam Ward had a 52.6 completion percentage, an actual completion percentage of 52.6. His adjusted completion percentage was 61.1%. So
that's more in the neighborhood of what you want, especially we know he threw the ball down the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like if the
didn't he lead all quarterbacks in yardage per pass?
Average depth of target?
Yeah,
I can find that out for you.
For rookies at least.
Because I think the point is this: if we're really nitpicking on completion percentage in 3 games and 7 drives,
yeah.
Okay. But if a coach said, I want to lead the league in completion percentage in the 3 preseason games, 7, he could have.
Oh, you can
just
do
throw swing passes every play, and you could be 10 for 11. But that's not what you want to do in the preseason.
Mm-hmm. No, you don't, and that's why I said that the numbers don't necessarily tell. At least not for me. It doesn't necessarily tell whether Cam is developing or not. If you just watch the games and know what's going on from an aerial view, then you'll see he was a little bit better than what the stats said.
Let's welcome in Teron Davenport, ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter, and he is presented by Bart Durham Injury Law. TD, let's start with this. We're talking about Cam Ward, so we'll ask you that same question. How would you assess Cam Ward's overall performance in the preseason, and in which specific areas did you see him improve the most from the start of training camp to now?
Yeah, I would say it was a solid performance. It wasn't outstanding and it wasn't terrible. So he's right there in the middle, and it's what you expect from a rookie quarterback. I think the area he got better, just establishing a rhythm. And I talked to him a lot throughout camp just about the timing and making sure when he's at the top of the drop, the ball's getting out and those types of things. And he said the timing was really what's going to, help him make the transition. And I think you look at that, like once things start to struggle a little bit at times, they would go right to like a quick passing type of scheme to get them in a rhythm. So I think like that is something that Brian Callahan and Cam Ward improved upon, just being able to find a way to get him comfortable and in a groove.
Teron, I want you to pick a winner and loser of the Titans preseason. And it can be a specific player, or it can be an entire position group. So if you had to pick a quote-unquote winner and quote-unquote loser of the Titans preseason, who would it be?
It's hard not to pick Cedric Gray. Like, I want to mention Bryce Oliver, but I think you look at Cedric Gray and what he did the last 2 weeks of preseason, I think has been an outstanding job. And it's just pretty cool to see when that thing just clicks and all of a sudden the guy is just playing the position naturally and playing without thinking and just flowing. And as he said, it started to slow down, not literally, but just mentally things slowed down and he's processing, boom, boom, doing what he needs to do. So he's had a pretty solid camp, more tackles than anyone else in camp. So I would probably go him. As far as losers concerned, wow, that's I'd probably say, I've been high on him. I didn't think that he would make the roster, but I thought that he's a guy that would stand out, and that's Xavier Restrepo. And I hate to call him a loser, so I'm not going to necessarily do that. But I'm going to say Camp was least kind to him just because of the upside and promise that, came with being the all-time leading receiver in Miami, the hot start that he had in OTAs and minicamp, and then, training camp came and the ball just didn't seem to find him a lot. And obviously not being on the field with Cam, that obviously is going to have a good impact on it. But, yeah, I would say Restrepo is the one that Camp was least kind to.
Now, TD, let's go back to Cedric Gray because we did talk about him briefly earlier in the show. And do you think he will benefit the most from having T'Vondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons in the middle? Because to me, the only flaw in his game, or one of the flaws, and he can't do anything about it, he's just not big. And to take on those big offensive linemen, that's where you need those two hefty guys in the middle to occupy some space, and then he can do what he does best and hit the hole. He did that this past weekend. He made a tackle in the backfield or go sideline to sideline. I've seen for many years Ray Lewis do it, and he was able to do it. Why? Because he had Saragusa and those big hounds in the middle, and they were holding up players, and Ray did what he did best. So can Cedric Gray benefit the most from those two and how they want to play that type of defense?
Yeah, I think he and Cody Barton could benefit, and James Williams when he's in there, to be honest with you. And you're 100% right, man. You got those hogs up front, and they're occupying linemen and keeping them from getting to the second level, and you have to deal with them. It's a huge benefit. And to your point about, I think he's decent size, but there's just something to those guys, man. And the one that he wore the same number, 51, and that's that David Long, man. I used to love the way he'll just kind of weave through. Look like you in the black Porsche, man, weaving through traffic and getting where they got to go. He will weave around the offensive linemen, and they couldn't get a hand on him. So that's something that Cedric Gray is going to have to learn to do. And he's not going to have to do it as much, though, because like you say, you got those guys up front. They just need to get T. Sweat back on the field and get him conditioned and able to go to get back to the snap count that he was last year.
Now, we also mentioned about some things that we were concerned about with Cam Ward. And my concern wasn't necessarily Cam Ward. It's those that are tasked to develop him. Are they going to have patience? And I said to the guys, it's not that I don't think Callahan, because if this thing doesn't start off well, the pressure may come from up top, which it filters down. And if Callahan feel pressures, then he may try to expedite the process with the quarterback. And if that happens, I think that's never good for a young quarterback. So my only concern is that if the Titans start off and not win at least 2 in their first 5, and it may happen, that those above Callahan will not be patient and he will feel it. Then that will be, sort of felt by the quarterback as well.
Yeah, well, I like to eat, so I tend to associate things with food a little more. And to me, you can't put a crock pot meal in a microwave, right? And just the same, you can't put a microwave meal in a crock pot. So in this case, that whole organization, the franchise period, is something that is going to take a process to get where they want to be. They're just not in the position to just suddenly heat up and do what the Texans did a couple years ago. So to me, the patience, that is the buzzword, patience and process. So those, and stability, those are the things. And shout out to Cam himself for lobbying for that stability. Hey, it hasn't been around here in a while, but I want to establish that. I want to be the reason why Callahan is a top head coach in the league. I want to be with Bo Hardegree, Nick Holtz, and Callahan for years to come. I think he did a good job of kind of pushing that message, and it's going to be necessary. But you're right. When you have the way things have gone the last 3 years, I mean, the GM, head coach, GM being fired, you always are going to question whether or not there is patience. And I think it really comes down to Amy Adams Strunk just kind of taking a step back, not working in her emotions and allowing the football guys to do what they do. But those football guys have to have patience. And the good thing from that perspective is their roots are built into processes that took time. And they've seen the results, right, in Green Bay with Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi when he was a part of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Rod Davenport is with us, talking with TD here. So, TD, what's your best guess at what the running back position looks like beyond Tony Pollard? If you had to guess right now, with the waiver wire looming and the guys you saw behind Tajay Spears?
Yeah, well, Spears and his high ankle sprain, that's a tough situation. So we'll see. I mean, that's probably going to kind of stick with him for, I would say, the season, because that's an injury that just
So do you think, to start with that, do you think we might see him on the IR with the hope to return, but just give a little more time?
There's a possibility, right? And, I mean, you look at that, and it goes back to what you said about the patience, right? Because Tajay Spears was a big part of this offense. Are they going to be able to put him on IR, have him not in there, and still be able to function? Because they like to create matchups with the running back on linebacker in the passing game, and Tajay Spears is their best option there. So I think there's a chance that he ends up there. As far as how the room will look behind him, I think they keep 4, right? I think they keep 4 running backs, 3 tight ends, and you look at the 4 running backs, it's Natron Means, a.k.a. Julius Chestnut. And
with the hurdle, coming off the hurdle where he just completely – Jason McCourty had a funny line. I don't know if you went back and watched the broadcast on CBS, but Jason McCourty he goes, that is not a good feeling when you hear you feel the whiff going over time. You don't even touch the guy when he jumps over you?
Yeah, just jumps. Bryce Oliver tried to do it too, so I guess it was a common theme. But, yeah, I mean, you got him and you got Khalil Mullins, who – he had to go out the last game. He had a lower leg injury. I think a right lower leg. We'll get more clarity on that soon. But I think those 4 guys make it. And you got to remember, Mullins being a former linebacker, he brings you that special teams value. So he has a nice ticket onto the roster.
So here's what I want to say. This was something that I was listening to, on a podcast that The Athletic put together. And it could have been anywhere, right? But it's a good question for you, TD, from where you sit. I think we would all agree that the pass rush for Denard Wilson's defense, it's got to be more than the sum of the parts. You don't look on paper and say, man, they're going to get this guy and this guy. They're going to get their sacks, right? It's got to be collectively. So how do you feel about that whole thing? Can they get what they want collectively from the pass rush, from what you're seeing?
I don't think it's going to be high sack numbers. They got to find a way to get home and actually take the quarterback down, because so many times you see them getting pressures but not sacks. And obviously you want to do more than sack. You want to impact the quarterback, cause turnovers, etc. So I've seen flashes of how things could work. Like you had the Cedric Gray sack, when he ran through the running back's mustache. You got those types of things, but the quarterback had to step up in the pocket because that outside pressure was there. So as long as they could make sure that they're disciplined and not running too deep and giving the escape lane, because that's what happened last year. They were too deep. Quarterback had escape lane, and you notice he would step up and then shoot out to one of those lanes and pick up yards. So I think that's the main thing, and it seems like that's been a focus just from the start. And talking to the guys, it's all been coordinated pass rush. And if they could get that, I think they'll be all right. But it's really going to come down to everybody being disciplined and, controlling their pass rush lanes.
I have tried. It's easy for me to sit here just as an observer of the team to say, hey, I'll believe L'Jarius Sneed helps this team when I see it. But internally, it would also be sensible for them to say, look, we have to move forward as if he's not going to give us much. But how optimistic do you think they are that they can get something from him at some point this year?
Well, I mean, you let them tell it. He's going to be their guy, right? You saw Denard Wilson say, like, he's the starter, period.
Right.
Done. You know what I mean? And, look, they know the work that he's put in. They know where he is as far as coming back from the injury. So I'm going to leave that to their judgment. I personally would still have questions just because of how things worked last year. And then knowing the past, how extensive of a Kawhi Leonard, like load management type of program he's needed to be on, you're going to have those questions. So I would definitely keep an eye on that situation and wonder, okay, are we going to get to a point where this shows up again?
How many waiver pickups would you anticipate they make once all of the things shake out tomorrow? Is it 2? Is it 4? What do you think?
It depends on who becomes available, but I could see them picking up a corner. I could see, a D tackle, always an opportunity. Can never have too many linemen. So, yeah, I think they'll make 2, 3 moves. And, I've said it over and over again. If I'm man 49 to 53, yeah, I'm going to feel good on Tuesday, but I'm going to feel better on Thursday. You know what I mean?
To follow up on that, Teron, are there any players who were released around the NFL today who intrigue you as a potential fit here?
I think that McKelvin, I forget his last name, but he's from A&M, I think it was. I liked him coming out the D tackle, so that's an option that I could see them picking up and adding to the depth there. I only got him keeping 4, but I mean you could add him and that'd be a 5th guy. I wouldn't put him over James Lynch, but he would be another rotational one. So you got him. Obviously, you could always look at some of the special team type of guys. I off the top of my head, there aren't too many that I could just say, hey, look at this dude. But McKelvin Telvin, I think his last name. He is somebody.
Now, quickly, let's go back to the running backs, TD. Julius Chestnut. I think he did enough this preseason to push for, now that Tajay is going to be out, that he's the number 2 back. And if that is the case, do you think, even if Spears is put on short-term IR and he missed, do you think they really go out and get another back if they have Chestnut? Because he's proven that not only can he run, he can catch the ball out the backfield.
Yeah, he's shown that he can catch the ball out of the backfield. Not the same matchup problem that Spears was. I would say they pick up a running back if it's one of those guys that, comes out of the backfield, motion into receiver spot and can run routes like a receiver. That's always going to be an opportunity. And if he could double as a return guy, I think that's something. But I mean, and there's always a lot of those guys out there. So we'll see.
Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, joining us here on D. Mace, Vingan, and Donican. He's presented every week by Bart Durham Injury Law. Teron, great stuff as always, my friend. We'll talk next week.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Take it easy. Go Mets.
Let's get it together, guys. Get it together, boys. Gosh.
We'll see today.
Today's a new day, TD. Today's a new day.
That's right.
Y'all starting to sound like Cowboy fans.
This is more than just a little dip they're in right now.
We've waited longer, 8 years longer since we've seen a World Series, man.
All right, TD. Good luck. Good luck to the Mets.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your reaction on the Tennessee Titans. But coming up next, the Vanderbilt Commodores open their season Saturday at home versus Charleston Southern, a 6 o'clock kickoff at First Bank Stadium. We start our weekly conversations with Vanderbilt head coach Clark Lee. Coming up next, 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D. Mace Finn, Gnadonic 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen. We will be joined in a few moments by Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee. The Commodores open the season Saturday at home versus Charleston Southern. That is a 6 o'clock p.m. kickoff at First Bank Stadium. 6 a.m. kickoff would be interesting. It is a 6 p.m. kickoff at First Bank Stadium. So we will be joined by Clark Lee in just a matter of moments. But as we wait for Clark Lee, let's read this text from Jeff on our text line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai Hyundai.com, I should say, about Cam Ward. Jeff writes, quote, how many regular season games do you think it will take for us to have a fairly good idea as to whether we got Cam Ward or Scam Ward with the first overall pick? I see what you did there, Jeff.
The whole season. That's what it's going to take. And then next season, we'll know. They didn't know after 4 games whether Will Levis. Well, they thought it was. A few games into his rookie season, toward the end there, they thought they had their guy. And then he came back the next following season, and that's when they found out he wasn't the guy. So it's not going to be 1 or 2, 3, 4. It's just a season. That's how they're looking at it. I'm just telling you how they're looking at it. They're looking at it, not a 1-game sample, not a 5-game sample. They're looking for a season. And then into next season, because we've all seen quarterbacks, they start off hot and then they fizzle out, or they start off in the struggle and then they figure it out. And so if you know about 4 games, that'd be great. I mean, I'm sure Washington knew early that they had their quarterback. I'm sure Houston knew early they had their quarterback. I think that second season is sort of like that, okay, we know he's the guy now. It's putting a marker on it, that next following season. So you're not going to know in 4 games. I hope we do, but I don't think we will.
I would say I want to see, and it might happen in the very first game. I don't know. I want to see how he responds to the adversity that will inevitably hit. So it's going to hit. And there'll be a lot of people like that texter saying, "Is it Scam Ward?" Like that. He's got to deal with that noise because that's part of the job. And I don't care what city you're in or where you were drafted, but when you're the starting quarterback, you get put through the ringer. So I want to see how he handles that. I think he'll get through it, but I think that will be the first thing I'm looking for. As far as the number of games, I agree with D-Mace. You got to get this year is all about him and going through the ups and downs, getting through it, supporting him as much as you can. And it's not necessarily all about the results. You got to have some results. You need to have some moments where you're like, yes, that's what we're looking for. More of that. And mixed in with we got to learn from that. But that's why I'm not worried about all of the results, completion percentage, all this stuff. I want to see how he gets through the tough times.
We do have some major breaking NFL news, courtesy of Adam Schefter, as we await Clark Lee. Another Holden ends. The Bengals and Trey Hendrickson have reached an agreement today on a $14 million raise for this year, boosting his 2025 salary to $30 million per sources. Hendrickson still is scheduled to become an unrestricted free agent after this season. Trey Hendrickson had insisted that he wouldn't play this season for the $16 million remaining on his contract. Now he has a reworked contract and is expected to play in the Bengals opener against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, the Bengals saw how many damn points they gave up the other day. And they were like, nope, we need him back. We ain't a good defense with them, but we damn sure ain't one without them. So they had to get him back inside. So good for them. I don't know what it does for Cincinnati because he got 17 sacks last season and 17 sacks the season before that. And Cincinnati failed to make it to the playoffs. Or they got ousted in the first round, I think, the year prior.
I was every analysis we heard while this was going on with Hendrickson, and of course Terry McLaurin also has signed. That was big news that came down either this morning or yesterday. You knew it was probably going to get there. Micah Parsons is the last big one. Of course, he was the picture of him sleeping on the training table. I mean, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Oh my goodness.
He's like, Jerry likes drama. He wants to go on the podcast and say, your agent told me to stick it up my bleep.
Well,
I could play that game too, but there was no formula where the Bengals could get better by trading Hendrickson.
No.
They needed him, so this was going to get done.
So Trey Hendrickson back in the fold for the Cincinnati Bengals. As I said before, the Vanderbilt Commodores open the regular season Saturday at home against Charleston Southern. That is a 6 p.m. kickoff at First Bank Stadium. And in just a matter of mere seconds, we will be joined by Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee. We will talk to Clark every Monday at 4:30. So looking forward to those conversations. Just waiting for David to patch him through, and then we will chat with Clark Lee. But I have a question for him about the Any Given Saturday docuseries on Netflix. I've watched it now, and I know that Vanderbilt was prominently featured in this. So I am curious to hear what he has to say to this question, because I know that I don't like to watch myself after I've been filmed. I'm curious what Clark is going to say. But we welcome in Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee to the program. Clark, we are glad to have you every week on the show. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We are doing well. Thank you so much. So let's start with some major news from last week in the SEC. The conference announced that its teams will play a 9-game conference schedule starting next season, as well as requiring each team to schedule at least one additional high-quality non-conference opponent from the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, or Notre Dame. Now, your schedule is already among the toughest in the country, and it's about to get tougher. So what was your reaction to hearing that news from the SEC?
Well, I mean, I think in some ways we've been, I don't know what the right expression is, kicking this can around for a couple of years now. I just kind of anticipated eventually it would get to this. Obviously, 9 games plus the additional quality opponent. I mean, that is as challenging as it comes. But I think that's, when you're in this league, you expect that kind of stuff. And I don't look. I've always said, I mean, they'll determine, how many conference games, who we play, put them on the schedule and line them up and let's play the games. I'm just not going to put that much energy into it. We got to focus on continuing to build this program. We got to focus on the schedule we have this season, and we'll deal with next season as it comes.
Clark, of course, the Netflix docuseries Any Given Saturday was a big hit. We've all watched it and enjoyed it. And as it was being filmed, I imagine you really didn't notice the cameras as you were coaching and addressing your players. But when you had an opportunity to watch it, how did you feel you and your program were portrayed? And on a lighter note, were there any moments captured in the series that made you say, is this how I really am?
I think I said it. We watched our portion of it as a team. So just the portion that Vanderbilt was featured in. I thought it was important that we got our eyes on it at the same time. As first of all, Netflix does an unbelievable job box to box. I thought all class professionals. I mean, those guys are the best of the best. And yet this is reality TV, and there are going to be heroes made. There are going to be narratives that are kind of pulled to the forefront that may not actually represent, exactly how it transpired or exactly what the pulse of the program is. And so to see it all the same, and to watch it together was important to me. When we finished watching it, my first question, God, is that how I really sound? That's what I asked the team. They all laughed. At the end of the day, it was authentic. I thought my biggest point of concern in it all was I'm not going to change. I'm not going to go on a script. I'm not going to alter the way I communicate with my team. If anything, it was an opportunity for people to see how we operate behind the scenes and to get a feel for what it is like to be a part of this program. I felt like that came through, and yet there's no way in the world that they could accurately portray what last season was. And really, there's so many great stories within last season that really go unaddressed, and that's not Netflix's fault. That's just the nature of the beast. I mean, they're following a bunch of different teams, and there are a bunch of different things going on. But we have to be okay with it not being 100% exactly how it all happened, and yet I thought, they captured authentically what our program's like internally, and hopefully football fans enjoyed getting a glimpse at that.
We'll talk with Vanderbilt's head football coach, Clark Lee. And Clark, I enjoyed it a lot. We talked about it the next day. We all saw it. So I really did enjoy it. And you know how they featured you and your program. It was top notch. But you return a lot of your production from last season to this season. Are your concerns the same this season heading into your first game as they were last season?
Well, I think in the first game, you're always concerned about just being crisp and clean and executing and those kinds of things. I mean, obviously we do the best we can to work through scrimmages and try to iron out all the potential details that need to be covered, and yet the ball's going to be put down, and we're going to make mistakes, and we hope to limit those mistakes. Every year is different, and so the boat we built last year for Team 4 is necessarily different than the one that we're building out for this team. Paying attention to the fact that we do return a lot of players, we do have a lot of veteran leadership on this team. That doesn't guarantee us anything, and so staying young and hungry on one side, but also really focusing on how we can stay healthy and try to sustain performance through what is going to be a really challenging season. The interesting thing to me is, we are still such an underdog, and we're still such a program that's just counted out, and we have to earn so much of the respect if we're going to get it. And yet, with the Netflix documentary and all the things that are going on, we are getting more of the spotlight, and there's more being talked about in terms of this program publicly, a part of the public narrative. And, I just got to continuously recenter this program, recenter this team on the fact that, we have so much out in front of us to prove. And last year, all of those things were kind of second nature. We were coming off a 2-10 season, and no one really had we weren't a part of any conversation. I think this year we have to be really disciplined in the way we approach our work, the way we invest, understanding the goals we have and how hard it's going to be. All that stuff kind of sets the course for how we operate internally. And again, the boat is different this season because it needs to be, and yet the fundamentals of who we are and how we're going to win and the things that we need to do to find success this year won't change.
Clark Lee is with us, Vanderbilt head football coach. And Coach, one thing that we've noticed and learned in this short time that NIL and transfers have existed is it's not about maybe what you initially envisioned in the SEC was grabbing the second string quarterback off of another team in your league or a Big Ten team. A lot of times it's finding those other guys that have been sort of lost in the shuffle who have developed. And I'm thinking of that when I ask you about Trey Richardson, who is coming over from Division II. I'm hearing really good things about him. You've had some success with players who maybe come from the same kind of developmental path. So what are you seeing from him?
Well, he has speed, and he comes from Wichita, Kansas. We have a pretty strong Kansas with Tim Beck and Jerry Kill and those guys, and so a lot of it has to do with, as you say, some of these kind of under the radar players that there's someone that we trust who's worked with them or had eyes on them or knows a little bit more about their story, can kind of explain away some of the complexity of it and say, hey, this guy's a really good player, a really good kid. And all those things are Trey Richardson. I mean, he's had a wayward path. He's earned the right to be here. He's changed the speed dynamic on our field. I mean, this guy really has the ability to run away from you. That's obviously going to make us better on defense too, as we compete against them. But that is kind of a common refrain in how we operate is we're not afraid of, again, the under the radar player or the chip on the shoulder player. We just want to gather as much information as we can that tell us that this predicts to someone who can impact winning. And when we have connections with coaches or people that have trained an athlete or, again, been around them for an extensive exposure, and we're getting the positive feedback from those places, we tend to trust those relationships and trust our eyes and evaluation. And hopefully this one pays off. I mean, Trey's been such a great addition to this point. We've been really impressed with him through practice, and now it's about taking all that preparation and applying it in competition.
I know one thing, I'm sure you've gone back and looked at. One of the strengths of your team last year was really grinding teams, ball control, lower the possessions, and win with doing the little things with special teams and things like that. But at the same time, I know you want to grow with taking your shots and getting more explosive plays. How's that process going for you?
Well, that's exactly right. We don't want to lose our identity. We still want to run the ball to win and to be able to grind out possession and score touchdowns in the red zone. That's our formula. And yet, what we did a year ago, played out over the course of multiple years may not be sustainable. I mean, we were number one in the country with respect to giveaways. And, we had a really effective offense when it came to conversion down and red zone conversion. So what are ways that we can protect against kind of those statistics tipping against us this year? We got to be better at taking the ball away, so creating more possessions for our offense. We still want to have, the same turnover margin, but we're going to accomplish that by giving our offense a little room for error and being a little more aggressive on the ball defensively. And then, we need to get in the end zone faster in possession. So still want to be great on possession down. We still want to have this methodical approach, but, when opportunities present for us to get the ball up and over the top of the defense, we need to execute. And there are kind of two elements to that. Obviously, there's the execution of the play, the throw, the catch, and syncing up that way, but also a lot of these shot plays come down to pass protection. And, this is a place that we approved upon a year ago. We have a quarterback who has, in his kind of nature, the ability to extend plays and to find windows in pass rush. But there are times where we need him to be able to stand tall in the pocket and get the ball down the field. And so that's been a focus. It starts with the run game, because everything's going to start with the run game. If you can get your run game going, you can get teams to load the box up. You can get defenses to take risks to try to stop the run. And once they take those risks, we have a chance then to get the ball up over the top. In those moments, we need to be able to protect it, and then obviously sync up with the quarterback and the receiver. But I've seen that in our offense. Again, we'll have to take preparation to performance, but I've been pleased with how that's looked to this point in our training.
We had a chance to talk to Martell Height during the SEC media days, and I know you guys carefully. You even talked to Deion Sanders about managing. As obviously Deion did it, and then of course he had Travis Hunter. We've debated on how Travis Hunter's rookie year is going to go, trying to do what he did in college in the NFL. But so how has the process been for you with Martell, trying to figure out what he can handle on both sides of the ball?
We met on this today, actually, just trying to project what Saturday is going to look like and feel like for him. And this being our first time really doing it, it'll be interesting kind of to get a feel for how it works for him, keeping him as fresh as we can while also using him in situations where we're going to need him, both sides of the ball, obviously as a returner as well. We lost Martell to a concussion for an extended period of time there in the middle of training camp. So we didn't actually get to do as much in preparation as we would have liked. We've gotten him back here over the last, week, and he's looked great. And so we've worked him back up to where his player load and what he's trained for is going to allow us to use him in all three phases. We'll do that. But I would anticipate, us kind of being mindful of not overexposing him in game one, just because, again, he didn't get the full training camp, and we're still learning how this is going to impact him and how he will respond to a situation where he may play a defensive series, catch the punt as a punt returner, and then turn around and be on the field as an offensive player too. You know, what can he handle physically? How quickly can he recover series to series? You know, obviously this will be our first time through it. We want to lean on the side of protecting him, knowing that we're going to need him in all three phases as the year goes on.
Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee has been our guest on D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick. Clark, thank you so much for your time today. Good luck Saturday against Charleston Southern.
Always fun to be with you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Clark. Clark Lee on the program. The Commodores open the season Saturday at home, a 6 p.m. kickoff at First Bank Stadium against Charleston Southern. 615-737-1025. There are more than 10 days until the Titans open against the Denver Broncos, but we have 10 shows until the Titans open against the Denver Broncos. So how appropriate that we start a annual tradition here on this program. Willie is going to bust out the scrolls. It's time for question 1 of Willie Donick's 10 Titans questions. We will get to that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D. Mace Vingan and Donick 1025 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Titans at Broncos. 2 weeks from yesterday. But we have 10 shows left until that week 1 matchup. Willie Donick happens to have 10 pressing Titans questions. So each show, I should say, over the next 2 weeks, Willie will introduce one of these questions. He has the scrolls. He will jot these things down. We will revisit them. We will laugh at each other. We will laugh at ourselves. And we want you to participate as well. So Willie will introduce question 1, and then you can answer it as well at 615-737-1025. So Willie Donick, bust out those scrolls, my friend. Question number 1 in your annual Titans 10 questions.
Hold on. The scrolls are as old as the dead time, right?
The
scrolls are as old as time.
I'm sad to announce that I forgot to bring my scrolls, the actual scrolls.
I'm surprised
I'm gonna have
can
to
even carry it
transcribe
around.
what we talk about today to the actual scrolls, which are sitting by my bed. Right.
I'm surprised you can even carry the scrolls around. They've been around forever. Or is it like
it must be very well preserved, and that's why it's been sitting in a very safe, secure spot.
Or is it like Harry Potter where they just make the book small? You can throw it in your pocket.
So let's do one that we've had a lot of fun with the last couple years, and I felt like it's become a tradition. Let's just see how it goes this year. So last year we asked, can the Titans be league average when it comes to sacks allowed? Can this offensive line that has 2 first-round picks, one of which has been shifted over to a comfortable spot, the new addition of Dan Moore, who is overpaid, but should be, in theory, quite a bit of an upgrade for what has happened, those 2 tackle spots. Can this team, now with the investing that they've done, with the free agency money that's sizable on the 3 other guys, plus the 2 first-round picks, can it translate in sacks? Now you have the Cam Warren factor, rookie quarterback, but last year, they allowed 52 sacks, 2024, 6th most in the league. And the only reason it was 52 was because they benched Will Levis and went to Mason Rudolph, who was actually really good at not getting sacked, right? He started quite a few games. If Levis had started all the games or not gotten hurt, they might have been up there. The Bears, for example, gave up 68 sacks. You don't see that when you see Caleb Williams' numbers, right? The numbers look okay. Hey, 20 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. But the 68 sacks was a big downgrade on his overall picture. The year before, when it was Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis, the Titans gave up 64 sacks. Now, the Giants 2 years ago gave up 85. 85 sacks. Are you kidding me?
That's a lot of sacks.
Now that makes the Titans offensive line look a little bit better.
80. Wow.
So league average most years, it's about 40. So let's do this. Can the Titans allow, as a team, over or under? What's the over under? Will you take over or under 42.5 sacks? Let's just give a little leeway. Let's put a little bit up there. League average. You got this investment in the offensive line. You got a different quarterback, second year of the offense, over or under 42.5 sacks for the Titans.
And you said
allowed.
And you said how many last season?
Last year,
58, wasn't it?
They allowed 52.
Okay.
52. And the year before that, they allowed 64.
So we're asking if the Titans can shave roughly 10 sacks
from
off
last
their
year.
total
from last year.
season.
But remember, they don't have Mason Rudolph, who started what, 5, 6 games?
I've tried to black out all of last season.
Yes, I'm sure you have.
But here is a stat from last season. There were 47 quarterbacks in the NFL last season who took a minimum of 100 dropbacks. Will Levis, number 1, and in this case, that's not good. Number 1, and the percentage of pressures that turned into sacks, 30.4%.
Yes.
Let me repeat that. 30.4%. for Will Levis. By comparison, Mason Rudolph in the same category, playing behind the same offensive line, 12.4%.
Much more what you're looking for, yes.
Cam Ward, last season at Miami, had a pressure to sack ratio of 15.9%. So about half of what Will Levis did in the NFL last season. So despite all of that, because there is a rookie quarterback under center, I will still take the over. I don't think the Titans are going to shave off 10 sacks. I could see 7 or 8, but I will keep it at slightly over 42.5.
All right, D-Mace, what do you got?
The last 2 years, they've given up 116 sacks total, so that's about 58 over the last 2 seasons. So the real number should have been 52. That's what the real number should have been. As far as like the last 2 years on average, what they've given up.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm gonna have to put it at the over, but not quite over. Like I don't think it's going to be, because you're picking what, 42?
42.5, which was,
I think they're still going to be
a little above what the league averages most years.
I think they'll be right at 50.
40.
I think they'll be right at 50, giving up 50 sacks.
So we're both taking the over.
Yes.
Willie?
The plan to preserve Cam Ward. This is why we asked these questions.
Who took the least amount of sacks?
The least amount of sacks last year?
Yeah.
Last year, I pulled up 2 years ago. Last year, the least amount of sacks allowed was hold on. Why is this thing blocking the last? Well, let's see. The Falcons were 25th in the league and allowed 32.
Okay.
So there were some teams that allowed less than 32 sacks.
Goodness, that quarterback must have felt good in the pocket.
And you know what, Willie? I'm going to give you an advantage because you are the one who is writing these questions. You'll have the break to think about it before you give your answer. 615-737.
And I will answer D-Mace's question too. I'll find out who gave up the fewest last year.
615-737-1025. Willie, repeat your question for the listeners so that they can participate as well.
The Titans have allowed 52 sacks as a team last year and 64 2 years ago. Can they shave down the number of sacks with the investment in the offensive line and a new quarterback not named Will Levis? Over or under 42.5 sacks allowed by the Titans offensive line this year. What do you think? 615-737-1025.
Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D. Mays Finnegan and Donick 1025, The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We are starting our 10 pressing Titans questions because we have 10 shows, including today, until week 1 of the NFL season, at least for the Titans. Titans at Broncos 2 weeks from yesterday. So Willie, as he does every year, has come up with 10 pressing Titans questions. He forgot the scrolls today, so he is going to have to transfer our answers today to the scrolls later. But Willie, once again, share the question with the listeners. We do already have some reaction on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. But here is question 1 of Willie's 10 pressing Titans questions.
We know the issues with the offensive line the last couple of years. It's not been good. We also have delved into the topic of how much was it the quarterback's fault, the quarterback who holds the ball too much. Ryan Tannehill did a lot of great things, but one thing he did do, he held the ball a lot. He got sacked a lot. Now, he was better at what he did with it when he wasn't sacked than Will Levis, who had a lot of bad things happen when he wasn't sacked and also got sacked a ton. So they've had issues with sacks allowed. 52 last year allowed. 64 the year before. The league average usually is around 40. Around 40 will put you league average, or the median, depending on what you want to do. So I set the bar at 42.5. Will the Titans allow over or under 42.5 sacks this season?
And Derek and I both took the over. Willie?
Both went over.
Your answer.
I feel, and this is what I've been burned last couple of years. Sometimes I'm like, I'm going to go the other way. I'm not. I'm gonna say they're going to be a little bit over, because I do think Cam Ward is going to have some games where he holds the ball too long.
Week 1, perhaps, against the team that led the NFL in sacks last season?
Well, that'll be a good test. I think his protection is going to be better, a lot better this year. But I think he's going to still need to learn what we've analyzed, how much he holds the ball, what we've observed in the training camp. I still think he's learning that the ball's got to come out quicker than he's used to, and there will be a learning curve. And because of that, I think they will cut down on the sack total. I think the protection will be better, but yet they will still be below average in sacks allowed. I also think they're behind a lot, and when you have to throw a lot when you're behind, that's when the sacks can really add up. So I will still say over.
615-737-1025 if you want to answer Willie's first question of his 10 pressing Titans questions. Let's go to Jacob on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jacob, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good.
Hey, I disagree with all three of y'all. I think it's gonna be under this year, because I think I got our coach this year is good. I agree. I think I have faith that it's gonna be under this year, because our defense is good. But I think the one team in the NFL right now that has a good defense that a lot of people don't talk about right now is the Giants.
Jacob, thank you for the call. I think you may have misinterpreted Willie's question. It wasn't the amount of sacks that the defense is going to have for the Tennessee Titans. It's the number of sacks allowed by the offensive line. So if you want to change your answer, Jacob, text us 615.
And we will, in a future show, have some questions about the defense, Denard Wilson's defense, because we haven't talked about that nearly enough, because this will be an important part of the formula here. It always is, but also, are they developing a good defense? If they're trying to become a contender down the road, how about Denard Wilson?
Mike on our text line says, under. Titans get it to less than 30.
Ooh.
Now, less than 30 would be quite the accomplishment, because, Adam, let's put it in perspective, right? The best team in the league last year at allowing the fewest sacks was
the Buffalo Bills.
With
14
sacks allowed the whole year.
Here is the top 5 in sacks allowed last season in the NFL. Buffalo, number 1, 14. Green Bay, number 2, 22. Baltimore, number 3, 24. Denver, tied for 3rd, also 24. Arizona, 5th, 30. So there were 5 teams in the NFL that allowed 30 or fewer sacks. So that would put the Titans in the top 5.
Ooh, if you're talking that, man.
Mike, I appreciate your optimism. I do not share that optimism.
But the overall goal, right? This is just one specific to have fun with the over-under, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the goal is to have, and I will use the term that Albert Breer used in his podcast recently, a professional offensive line. Can you get to where your offensive line, with the investment you've made, is a professional offensive line? And honestly, it really needs to be with what you've invested in the offensive line. 3 free agents, veterans, and 2 first-round picks. That should give you a professional offensive line, if not something quite a bit better than that.
One texter says, under 42, Cam is shifty enough that he will get out of a few would-be sacks with his mobility. Andrew from Dover, over 42.5 sacks, but will be below 50 for the season. That's kind of where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that asking them to take it down by 10 may be asking too much. I could see them in the 45, 46 range thereabouts. So I'm with Andrew. Over 42.5, but below 50. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I think they're going to be right at 50. I think if they're giving up more than that, then you're going to have some problems. Around 50 with what they've done with the offensive line. Cushenberry comes back, hopefully, before the start of the first game. If he missed the first game, then hopefully he's back sooner rather than later. Zeitlin, he'll be out there. The concern is, some of these guys are a bit older. Zeitler, Cushenberry's coming off an injury. Levin's been in the league a minute. So you got some guys that either coming off injury or are a little bit long in the tooth. Can they hold up? Because the offensive line will dictate how well this team does, I believe.
Sonny says, I'll take the under. The line, I think, will be better in pass pro, but I also think they will be able to run better and won't be in as many obvious passing situations. Those combined will result in fewer sacks.
So I think that is a point that a couple of texters have hit. And this is what I don't know, because we haven't seen enough reps of Cam Ward, first of all, being better in the pocket, of sliding, avoiding some, which Will Levis was terrible at. He was so often sliding into the pressure and not sliding away from the pressure, which made the offensive line look back. Remember Sean Payton's stat, sacks are a quarterback stat, not an offensive line stat. In fact, in game 1, they will face Bo Nix, who had exceptional ability to avoid being sacked in college, which is what Sean Payton looked at and his people and said, that's who we want. We want Bo Nix. And they got a really good rookie season out of him. And he did well in that as a rookie. So we got to see how Cam Ward does in that. Now, based on his college stats, you look those up, Adam, he was okay, but still he can hold the ball
roughly
a little bit.
16% of the pressures he faced last season at Miami turned into sacks. I'll have to see where that ranked in in college football.
And then there's the other art, D-Mace, of avoiding the sack, but getting away and then throwing the ball away, right? Where instead of taking a sack, you get away and you throw it away. It doesn't lead to a interception or a completion, but throwing it away, right? Peyton Manning and Dan Marino are the first 2 guys that come to mind for me. If they thought they were getting sacked, they just chuck it, throw it away. And they'll say, I'll get you on the next play.
Yeah, you don't need to be in 2nd and 13 or 14. You rather just throw the ball away and deal with a 2nd and 10.
But that's a skill.
Yeah,
right?
It's a skill. You feel the rush, and you try to hold on to the ball as long as you possibly can, but then you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're scrambling around and you end up losing 5-6 yards. So the good quarterbacks, the great quarterbacks, they have that innate ability to be able to get the ball away early enough to where they're not going to get sacked.
The other part, too, that I think is a factor as people try to calibrate what we're going to see, can they avoid the obvious pass situations where you're more apt to get sacked? When you're 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, that's when it's tougher to avoid the sacks. If you can stay out of that more often, your sack total, your allowed sacks will go down.
There were 66 college quarterbacks in the regular season last year who had at least 300 dropbacks. Cam Ward ranked tied for 48th in pressure to sack percentage. So kind of right in the middle, right?
Yeah. Not exceptional, not awful, but and obviously he was talented enough to be able to say, you know what, I'll let the rush come in. I'll extend plays. And you could look at his highlight reel. It's full of plays like that, right? But you're just not, just like Caleb Williams found out last year.
Can't do that.
You're not going to be able to do the same thing.
Matt from Camden says, I'm hammering the over. Hammering the over. Hammering it. One texter says, I'm guessing around 50 with 25 coming in the first 5 games.
Oh, wow.
And then big adjustments from Cam and Callahan to start fixing it. Can you imagine
my goodness.
Cam Ward being sacked an average of 5 times per game in his first
He's not going to hold
games?
up. He's not going to hold up.
There won't need to be any adjustments because Cam will be on injured reserve.
I could see it because
you can see 5 sacks a game.
The 52 last year was in theory an improvement, but remember how the season went, and a lot of those games they weren't way behind early, which could happen this year. And when that happens, you got the pinbacks. Yeah. You got here we come. Here we're coming at you because I know you're having to throw. Mm-hmm. Remember how often they had the lead?
Oh, of course,
at halftime, the lead in the second half, and they won 3 games all year, but they had a ton of opportunities where they weren't behind to win games in the second half. They handed them away a lot of times, or they didn't win in the close games. But it's not like they were behind by 14 and having to chuck it every play. Some of this has to do with how many times you have to drop back.
Or try to throw deep pass.
Or be desperate, right?
And Will Levis, last year was a quarterback, and you hope that, once you get into the season, that you would do a better job as an offensive coordinator at not trying to dial up, not trying to dial up those plays all the time. It seemed like they were trying to take shot after shot with Will Levis, just using his big arm. Or he was, sort of not looking at the route combination correctly. And he a lot of times he wanted to go for the big shot and he held on to the ball a little bit too long. They're hoping that that is not Cam's makeup. It doesn't seem like it is. But then 2, because it seems like he's developing and picking up the offense, I think they can open up more of their playbook. So what you're seeing now, him averaging 10 yards per pass play, I don't think it's going to be that during the season. I think it's going to be around 7, somewhere around that 8. But 10, that's too. I think that's a tad bit too high for a rookie quarterback, and the ball being in the air on average that many yards. That's not good for a rookie quarterback.
By the way, we missed this earlier. Some more NFL breaking news, although it's not breaking anymore because it's 42 minutes old. It's 42 minutes old. But for me, Ian Rappaport, Amari Cooper is rejoining the Las Vegas Raiders.
Interesting.
Amari Cooper, a 1-year deal with the LA Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. So we got some questions last week about Amari Cooper. He is leaving Buffalo and heading back to Las Vegas.
I'm trying to remember this. He was traded originally from the Raiders to the Cowboys, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it the other way around?
Hold on.
The Raiders to the Cowboys.
Yeah. So he was originally a Raider.
Yes. He got drafted.
Traded. That was a trade deadline deal that you don't see that many of. Remember, that was a big one at the time.
And he produced in Dallas right away.
Right. He was traded from the Raiders to the Cowboys, then the Cowboys to the Bills, right? He was traded twice. Am I missing?
No, Browns. You're missing the Browns.
The Browns were in there, yeah. But at the time, he was
he
was sort of in his prime when the Raiders made that. That doesn't happen very often in the league. A guy with that kind of credentials getting traded at the trade deadline. It's the kind of thing we wish we had a little bit more of, right? Sexy trades like that. You get them in the other sports, right? The hockey trade deadline, the baseball trade deadline, basketball's always got it, right?
You ain't getting that too many times in the NFL.
615-737-1025. Willie's first of 10 Titans questions. Over under on the number of sacks allowed by the Tennessee Titans offensive line. 42.5 is what Willie has set that line at. Let us know what you think. 615-737-1025. Coming up next. Willie heard it first. Then he sent it to us. Then I listened to it. And my first thought was, is Mike Tannenbaum okay? We will play we will play that audio for you, and you can judge for yourself. But we are going to humor Mike Tannenbaum coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Dunnick, Derek Mason, Adam Ving at 1025 The Game.
Okay, let's tell you about Loan Pronto. If you're trapped or you got stuck with a high-rate mortgage for your home, maybe it's a couple years ago, whenever it was, if you're watching your money vanish every month because you're like, oh, man, that interest rate. Right now, Loan Pronto is ready for you. They're delivering the lowest mortgage rates in 3 years. The Rate Reduction Home Loan Program is a great, streamlined, low-cost way for you to slash the house payments by hundreds of dollars a month. Lock in a fixed rate as low as 4.99% APR and close in as little as 2 weeks. No appraisal needed in most cases. You can skip the next 2 house payments entirely. So rates this low won't last forever. So call Loan Pronto now and get locked in for the free, no obligation quote. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval. NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
The #1 overall pick, Cam Ward, if I said he'll have instant success with the Titans, is that right or wrong?
That's absolutely right. Look, they have a really good offensive line. They're going to move J.C. Latham from the right side to the left to the right, Dan Moore. This offensive line is well coached by Bill Callahan. Cam Ward will not turn the ball over. I expect them to win the division this year and arguably be the best quarterback in the division by the end of the season.
Win the division? I heard the same thing you did. It's very easy for you, now that you're not a GM, to sit up here and start all these rookie quarterbacks and applaud them, isn't it?
Wait.
Let me tell you, it's way easier to talk about doing it than doing it.
Wait. Actually, I did it. I think some guy that bloviates here during the regular season started a rookie quarterback, and it worked out okay.
That was Mike Tannenbaum on Get Up this morning. And Willie sent us that clip. And here's how I know that Willie and Derek are older than me. They take videos off of their TV. They hold up their camera phone and hit record. I know how old you are based on whether you can take a screenshot or if you take a picture of your computer screen with your phone. Guilty. And
Willie.
these two, I tried to teach them once how to take an actual screenshot. Clearly,
how do you do it again?
We don't have time for this. You would take the rest of the show.
Old guy alert.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Oh, man.
It's easy just to pull out your phone and take a picture.
I know. And I was holding my phone up to the TV. I ran it back because when I heard this, I looked at the people in the house. I did exactly what Adam Schefter and the rest of the panel were like, whoa, win the division. Whoa. You know, like,
oh, man.
So Mike Tannenbaum just slips in there. I think the Titans will win the AFC South. So my first reaction was, is he okay? Do we need to check on Mike Tannenbaum? But I want to humor him for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Let's humor Mike Tannenbaum. And let's just say he's going to be right. He's probably not going to be right. I would bet that he's not going to be right. But let's just humor him for a few moments and talk about what that would look like. How can the Titans possibly win the AFC South? And the first thing that came to mind is a meteor crashes down and only lands in Indianapolis, Jacksonville, and Houston. Those are the only three cities that are impacted, namely the football headquarters. And everybody's okay, but they can't play football this year. So the Titans win the AFC South by default. So that was my first thought.
Damn, Titans.
But joking aside, a lot of it obviously has to do with the other teams in the division. We talked a lot last week about the Indianapolis Colts going with Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson. So there's an opening there for the Titans if Cam Ward can play well. There are question marks about Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. Liam Cohen is there. Jags hope that Cohen is the coach that can finally get Trevor Lawrence to live up to that huge potential.
Duval.
Oh, man.
Duval.
Don't start that with me right now.
If he said it like that, it probably wouldn't even be that bad. The way he said it was
that
worse.
Actually,
yeah.
both of yours was an improvement over the actual one. So there are question marks about Jacksonville. We talked about Travis Hunter late last week as well. And then the Houston Texans took a step back last season. They're hoping for a bounce back. Oh, there it is. And the Texans have questions as well. There are questions about every other team in the AFC South. So you would need the worst case scenarios to play out for all three of Tennessee's division rivals. But let's talk about the Titans specifically. So let's assume for a moment that Houston struggles and Jacksonville struggles and Indianapolis struggles. Even then, that might not be enough for the Titans to do this. And again, we don't think this is going to happen. But Mike Tannenbaum went on ESPN today and said the Titans are going to win the AFC South. I believe he also said that by year's end, Cam Ward is going to be the best quarterback in the division.
Yep.
So let's just talk about the Titans' perspective, Willie. We know that the other teams have to struggle. But if you are humoring Mike Tannenbaum, how do the Titans win the AFC South?
Okay, if I'm first of all, I don't think they're going to win the AFC South. I'm not going to even predict like I did last year. I don't know why I got roped in because in hindsight's 2020. I look back on my prediction for last year at 8-9, and I'm like, what was I thinking? 8-9, but I don't think we could have foreseen just how bad Will Levis was going to be. So it does hinge on Cam Ward. If Cam Ward is surprisingly good and the offensive line blossoms with 2 first-round picks who are still young but now have experience, and 3 veterans that got pretty sizable money, right, for their age and experience, to put that all together, to have a little luck keeping that group healthy, then I think what it would take would be 2 or 3 other people that we aren't thinking of. Let's just say, who's the running back? The linebacker, Cedric Gray. Like, if he all of a sudden became, as an example, way better than we even thought. He's flashed, but you're kind of like, hey, do they have something there? If Gunnar Helm is a guy that becomes a little bit of a weapon, and you're like, wow, that's a hit. If one of the 2 other rookie wide receivers are a hit, they don't both have to be, but one of them's got to be a hit for this to happen. And then I would say the last part would be, could you get a bounce back season from L'Jarius Sneed to go with Brownlee, to where you actually have a defensive secondary that could cover somebody and give you a little time? These are all things. It's like the perfect storm, but that's what it would take. You would take the perfect storm.
Well, I mean,
it's not going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
No, we are only humoring Mike.
We're humoring Mike Tannenbaum.
Yes.
And this is why, maybe this is one reason that Mike hasn't been able to get on as a GM again.
Yes.
And then he sort of
he did mention his success with a rookie quarterback.
It had
Mark
nothing.
Sanchez.
It had nothing to do with the quarterback. Everybody know that, because when they didn't have that defense no more, we saw how the quarterback really looked. Okay, I played with him.
Was this before or after the butt fumble?
This was all during the butt fumble. The butt fumble just was icing on the cake. That's when they found out. Yeah, the world was like, yeah, he's not the guy.
But hey, Mark Sanchez. Calling NFL games every week.
Listen,
now.
Mark Sanchez parlayed that to a nice gig, and he's doing great. So, so we're humoring him, and I wouldn't consider this necessarily a humor. There's some truth in this. What I'm going to say, the Titans win this division if those other issues that we talked about last week and you just mentioned, if they don't get better with those teams, whether it's Jacksonville, whether it's Indianapolis, if Houston continues to, take steps back, or even if they just stay where they're at, that helps. So that's the part that there's some truth in this, because we're looking at Houston and saying they will win the division, but Houston has their own problems, but the Titans win this division if those 3 things happen with those 3 teams. 1, 2, they stay healthy. And then I think last, outside of the offensive line, because I'm trusting that offensive line will be better. The last thing I think is the most important thing, the relationship between Cam and Callahan. If that relationship's develop like the way they want it to, I think it's going to be a marriage made perfectly for both of them. Because look at the quarterbacks that have had success. They've had a good relationship with the play caller, whether it be the head coach or the offensive coordinator. Why do you think Andy Reid has so much success? His system works, but he has a good relationship with his quarterback. Hell, he has a good relationship with the team, it seems like, the way they talk about Andy. But he has built a relationship with his quarterback everywhere he's been. I think that's going to be key, that relationship. And it seems like they're building it the right way. That relationship that they build, because there's going to be tough times this year for Cam Ward. But if he can trust the play caller, he'll get through it. If he starts questioning the play caller, then he won't get through it. So to me, that's the only way this can happen. If those 3 things we talked about with those teams ahead of them, and then the things that I talked about, and plus the head coach and the quarterbacks commitment to excellence, one, but then that relationship that they build, that bond that they build, that's going to be important for this offense.
This is a ESPN behind the scenes question I don't know the answer to. Mike Tannenbaum, I think, is famous through the years.
Mm-hmm.
And look, everybody on those shows could probably be exposed.
He was with Miami when they drafted
in the freezing
Tannehill.
cold takes, right? You know, there's that website that
Mm-hmm.
always gives you the freezing cold takes. It calls you out for a really dumb prediction. But there is a certain element on all of those shows, Stephen A. Smith, and whatever show you're watching on ESPN, where they want provocative, strong opinions, right? Notice how I avoided the term for those, Adam, which has been banned from the show.
I appreciate that.
But Mike Tannenbaum's got plenty, right? So here's my question. Do they, in a production meeting, say, hey, guys, just tell me how you feel. Whatever it is, we're going to go with. Or do they say, who's got a hot take? There's the word. I did it. I violated it. But who has that? Do they encourage a Mike Tannenbaum to go against the grain? Even if he doesn't really believe it, is he saying it for the show? Or is he really believing as an ex-GM that this could happen? I do wonder these things.
I think that, again, I think he believes
that it could happen. But he's saying it's going to happen. They're going to win the division. What? But that's the reaction he's looking for.
Here's a freezing cold take from August 30th, 2014. Ross Tucker tweeted, that's one reason PSU quarterback Christian Hackenberg is going to be a first-round quarterback in 2016, maybe number 1 overall, retweeted by Albert Breer, the next great prospect.
Oh, wow. See?
Christian Hackenberg.
Man.
It gets everybody. Cold takes get everybody.
Yes, eventually.
Yes.
But there's some that have a higher batting average than that because those shows need some zip. That's what they want. It's not, hey, I don't really care about the level of intensity or the loudness or the craziness. I just like a good conversation. I don't care about whether you give me a strong opinion or not necessarily. I want insight from people that have been there, like Tannenbaum. But I think Tannenbaum gets, he's not real charismatic when he gives these things, but I think we could look through the years and find a lot of provocative things he said that, or I don't think he is known for having a great hit rate on some of these.
But I think there is some, again, I think there is truth, some truth to what he's saying. But there are several things that I think needs to happen simultaneously for the Titans to achieve winning the AFC South. Now, I'm not saying they can't get better and push Houston for the AFC South. And I don't think it's really a foregone conclusion that Houston's going to win the AFC South. But I think there is some truth to him saying he says they're going to win it, no doubt. And he says Cam's going to be the best quarterback by the end of the season. I think there's a little bit of truth to that, but there has to be a lot of things that happen in order for that truth to come, so now will Cam end up being the best quarterback at the end of the year? I mean, hell, it ain't like he's going through Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen all in the same division. He going against Jones, Lawrence, and the best one is obviously C.J. Stroud. And he's going to have to do a lot to get to C.J. Stroud. But those other two quarterbacks, he ain't going to have to do much.
You're really that down on Trevor Lawrence, huh?
I was, y'all know how high I was on Trevor Lawrence. But he has it, like, he is who he is. And hopefully they're thinking that Liam Cohen can get more out of him. But okay, what does more look like? Does it look like Jared Goff or does it look like something else? Because I think his ceiling could be Jared Goff, but can he reach it? Honestly, I don't know how much more developed he can be as a player. I just don't. He's been in the league long enough. It's been 6 years? After 6 years, you are who you are as a quarterback.
Ricky on our YouTube chat says, Adam shtick that Titans have no hope is tired. I don't think it's a shtick. I also think I'm trying to be realistic. I do think that the Titans and Titans fans should be more hopeful entering this season than they were at this time last year, but I'm not expecting them to be good. I am not having whatever Mike Tannenbaum had this morning before he went on the air on Get Up. I don't know
a
what
cup
it
of
was.
sunshine.
Something like that. That's one name for it. It could be a different street name for it, as far as I know. So I didn't partake in whatever Mike Tannenbaum partook in this morning. I don't think the Titans are going to win the division. I think there's a less than 0% chance, which is impossible. But I just don't think it's going to happen. That's my point. But I do think that Titans fans should feel a little bit more optimistic. But when I think of that, I think of like 5 or 6 wins instead of 3 or 4. So we'll see. We'll get more into that with Willie's pressing Titans questions, which we did the first one today. We'll continue the rest throughout the week. 615-737-1025. When Mike Tannenbaum wasn't saying ridiculous things on Get Up, the panel on the show did have an interesting conversation about young quarterbacks that I do want to get into to wrap up the show. Also, be listening for the cue to call, because once we get back from break, I will let you know what caller you need to be to win a pair of tickets to the Borchetta Music City Grand Prix at the Nashville Superspeedway on August 30th and 31st. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5 The Game.
the most important position in American professional sports. Why is it essentially a coin flip that it works at the highest possible level? I'll start with Dan.
Yeah, because the most important things for a quarterback are the ones that you can't touch, see, record, or measure. The physical comes second when it comes to importance, and all those things that you just can't touch and you can't measure and you can't time are the most important things. And that's contrary to every other position. Every other position, the physical is the most important stuff. At the starting point, the size, the speed, the strength, how much you bench, how fast you are, all that is the most for every other position. So if you're a talent evaluator, a GM, a scout, all those things that you're looking at for all those other positions come primary. And it becomes secondary for the quarterback. It's about the leadership. It's about the accountability. It's about the responsibility. It's about the intellect. It's about the processing. It's about the communication. I don't know how to measure that. And I think that's the starting point of why guys and teams consistently get it so coin flip and or wrong.
That was Dan Orlovsky on Get Up. I can't recall if that was before or after Mike Tannenbaum said that the Titans will win the AFC South. But it was an interesting conversation. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. I promised a giveaway, so here it is. Be caller number 3. Caller number 3, 615-737-1025. You will win a pair of tickets to the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix at the Nashville Superspeedway on August 30th and 31st. Caller number 3, you will win a pair of tickets to the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix, 615-737-1025. That conversation started with this interesting graphic that they showed on the screen on ESPN. 50%, 30 of 60, 50% of quarterbacks drafted in the first round between 2000 and 2020 signed second contracts with the teams that drafted them. Just 50%, 30 of 60. So as we have talked all summer long, and we will continue to talk with Cam Ward all season long about whether he has what it takes to be a franchise quarterback. Keep that number in mind. Between 2000 and 2020, according to ESPN, 50%, just 30 of 60, quarterbacks drafted in the first round signed a second contract with the team that drafted them.
We did, I think, a similar exercise a few weeks ago on the show when we were trying to point out how much is riding on Cam Ward. And I think we kind of came to the same conclusion. It's no matter whether you're the first pick or the fifth pick, because we've looked specifically at the first pick or the first 4 picks of the draft as well. We've cut it that close. But it still comes down to, in the big picture, when you look over the long haul, it's a coin flip whether those guys are going to hit or not.
Literally. 50%.
Yes. And Dan I always say Graziano and Orlovsky. I get them confused in my head. Orlovsky kind of said why. It's so hard to measure the mark of a quarterback.
Yeah, it is, because he's right. It's not like any other position, and it's not supposed to be like any other position. That's why they get paid typically the most money, and that's why the franchise is put on their shoulders, because it's a different position outside of everybody else's. Because I have to know everything everybody's doing, and I got to make sure that they're doing it the right way. As a receiver, I don't have to worry about what the left tackle is doing. I don't have to worry about what the receiver on the other side is doing. I should know what he's doing, but it's like that's not my problem. Cam Ward, the quarterback, anybody, they got to make sure everything is done properly. So yeah, it's hard to measure a lot of that. That's why, maybe NIL is good in this sense. And you've talked about this a lot, Willie, for years. Getting these young men to stay in college a little bit, like a year late, a year more, instead of coming out a year early. Stay that extra year, because I think you learn a lot when you stay an extra year. You learn how to prepare better. You learn more of the mental aspect of playing quarterback. You become more of a leader now, because it's different faces in the locker room. Faces are not the same, so you gotta lead possibly in a different manner. These are things that are all setting you up for the NFL. And if you don't have much of it, a la Richardson, then the likelihood of you succeeding in the NFL is 50-50. I would love to see, of those quarterbacks, how many of them and maybe, 2020 to 22 isn't a big enough sample piece. But how many of those quarterbacks stayed an extra year? Like stayed that fourth year?
That's probably part of it.
Was a red shirt freshman.
The study started in 2000.
Between 2000 and 2020.
I would guess 2000 was a different era of college football than it was recently. And they stopped at 2020. So since then, it's kind of early. I guess it's still too early. That's why they stopped it there, to evaluate the class of 2021 and closer. There was the one year with not that. I think Kenny Pickett was like the only guy drafted in the first round. But the 50-50 also is another illustration of why the percentages tell you that you're better off trading the value of the first overall pick. There's my one for the day. I'm not going to go into anything, but I'm just going to make sure everybody does know.
Had to get it in there.
I am on the record. This is why. The 50-50 is why. Give me the 3 extra picks that would have been in the top 40 that you would have had that you didn't have before. You now have Cam Ward, and it's a coin flip. As much as we like him, it's a coin flip.
But then out of all of those quarterbacks, how many of them had, and we did this exercise, but how many of those had, a revolving door at head coach or at GM? How many of those individuals did more of the ones that fell on the 50%, were they more so in line of having the same coach and GM, for years? They had that consistency, or was it on the other side?
I'm sure if
where
you really
they were
dug
not,
down and drilled down, you could probably
kind of
find
like Chicago. He's had what? This would be his second OC and head coach, and he's been in the league 2 years.
I believe it's his 4th offensive coordinator.
It's his 4th, but second.
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
So I wonder how many of those guys are on the ledger of not signing new contracts, because they didn't have that stability.
Well, but that's we won't be in the wrong end of the 50%. We're smart. We're not like all those other 50% that's so dumb. We're not the 50% that's dumb. We're smart. I'm sure everybody said that when they took a guy in the first round.
Oh, of course.
So just something to
keep
in mind.
The odds aren't that much better even for the top pick or the second or third or fourth pick. We did the exercise.
I would love to see the breakdown by draft slot.
We did it. We did it for the first 4 picks just last week.
Oh, that is true.
It was, I don't know if I said coin flip, but it was about 50-50. When I asked you guys, it was your opinions.
Yeah, you named out the quarterbacks. And we talked about
maybe
him having second contracts.
Slightly more than 50%.
How many of those guys went to
arguably.
Yeah.
It's in that range.
Of who, and our question was not the second contract, because some of them, it's too early to tell whether they're going to get the second contract, but it was, do you think that's a good return on investment? We were about 50-50 with the top 4 picks. Anthony Richardson was the 4th pick. Jamarcus Russell was the 1st pick. We can go. There were like 8 or 9.
But that article went all the way back to 2015, I think.
We did. We looked at a story a few weeks ago looking at
the first overall.
Well, we were also looking at a different story, quarterbacks starting versus sitting when they debuted and whether they received a second.
We've done
contract.
We've done a lot of different slices. Right? We did top 4 picks. We did the entire history of the first overall pick, which is like 20 or I think Cam Ward is the 21st since Peyton Manning was in 1998. That's where it was around 50-50. The top 4 picks in the draft for recently, from 2021 on, I think is the other slice that I'm talking about, where you have the huge hits of Stroud. You have a huge hit, obviously, in Jaden Daniels. And then you've got Anthony Richardson, Zach Wilson. Who are some of the other ones? I wrote them all down, but
Trey Lance.
Trey Lance, second overall. But it's a mix. It's a coin flip.
Indeed. I don't know if I'm sure most of you saw this. We did have a real college football game in week 0. The Iowa State Cyclones defeated the Kansas State Wildcats 24-21 in Dublin, Ireland.
But that ain't the story.
That ain't the story. Did you guys see the video of Kansas State quarterback Avery Johnson's father and brother fighting each other outside the stadium?
That was, man.
They
How did that
happen? They gave the obligatory, I don't know what we were thinking.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry.
But how did that
Here's
what happens in Ireland, like when you go over there, too many Guinness or something.
Yeah,
I don't
probably
know.
so.
They were fighting in a water puddle.
Yeah.
I assume it was rain. I don't know that for sure, but they were fighting in a water puddle outside the stadium. The Athletic writes Mark and Anthony Johnson were seen on video fighting one another before they were pulled apart by at least 5 Kansas State fans. Johnson's father wore a number 2 Kansas State jersey, while Johnson's older brother sported a number 2 t-shirt. Jewelry was scattered in the scuffle, and at least one person had a swollen eye. They released a joint statement to On3. Quote, "We sincerely apologize for our actions following yesterday's football game in Ireland. Senseless bickering escalated into an unnecessary fight. We have resolved our differences and take full responsibility for our actions."
Did they consult a good PR firm to get
You had to. I don't know how. I guess it's just me. I don't know how in the hell can you let it get that heated that you fighting your own son or your father?
Right. It's different if it's two random fans fighting each other.
I can even see if it was my brother and we got to pushing each other and just got in each other's face because we, after a game, because we're both so, we're just mad about something. But you're like father and son, that doesn't make sense in my world. Like how can you, as a father, how can you fight your son? And as a son, how can you raise your hand at your dad? My goodness, I tried to put a fear of God in my sons. He won't do it. No, no, I don't do that. But I don't know how that happens, man. I'm sure it happens more times than we think. But man, oh man, at your son's football game, and he's a prospect, a damn good one at that, and the team's supposed to be good. They're going to be talking about this the whole year.
And look, I know there are stereotypes about Irish folks and how they perhaps like to get into scuffles. Perhaps a kerfuffle or two. Now,
is that an Irish term? Kerfuffle?
It could be.
Sounds
now, neither
possible.
of the Johnsons, I assume, are Irish.
No.
Maybe there's some.
They
Irish.
may have some Irish in their
there
blood.
might be some
Ancestry.com. Sometimes
Irish-
you're surprised at what pops
I got a
up,
little
right?
Irish in my blood. So
The part I was fixated on was the puddle. They were right there in the puddle. It's like, guys, move the fight over just a little bit. I assume that's rain. I don't know that to be sure.
And then you had to get in the car. Did y'all ride together?
I assume they weren't
We're in the same
driving.
hotel room.
Did y'all stay in the same? Come on, man. Y'all got to think about this stuff. I'm sure there was libations flowing everywhere. I'm sure.
I'm imagining them checking into the hotel. We're sorry. I know that you requested 2 double beds. We only have 1 king available. They have to go back after having that fight. But I saw that.
Man.
I mean, the college football is back, baby.
Yes,
week
and
1.
Yeah, thank you. It was week 1. It wasn't no damn week 0.
That was week 0.
No,
this
it wasn't.
is week 1.
No, week 1 was last week.
I'm just going by what ESPN
If
tells
there was
me.
a game played, that's week 1. If it's week 0, then there's no games played. That's the way I look at
I
it.
challenge you to a fight next to a puddle.
Next to a puddle, not in a puddle.
No, next to a puddle. That would go
Challenge you to a
incredibly.
duel.
That would go incredibly poorly for me. But
We
that,
need leather gloves. So I can slap you in the face with the leather glove.
glove slap, baby glove slap. That'll do it for us today. Titans roster is due at 3 p.m. tomorrow. And guess what? That's when we're on the air. So we will react live as the Titans 53-man roster drops in the afternoon. We look forward to that. Trevor Maddich will join us as well in the 4 o'clock hour. But that'll do it for us today. The Commodore Hour is coming up next.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Monday. I love you. We love you. Peace.